Hello, I'm MattHe, the host of the new format RuneScape podcast. We have another bumper issue for you today with Mod Osborne and Law Corner and Mod Infinity hosting the player support team. In between, we'll also have Mod Shauny visiting us to talk about his favourite music track. And without any further ado, we'll go straight to Law Corner.
Hello, Lawhounds, and welcome to the next Law Corner. This time we're going to be talking about Zaros. And on the sofa we have...
Mod Stu, senior content developer.
Mod Raven.
And Mod Roly.
Boom. Let's get on with it. Let's go for the big man. The empty lord, Zaros. So I think we could start off with the betrayal of Zaros. Because this was something that was written by Mod Nancy, I think, in the General Shadow content. It was kind of, we knew that there was a betrayal, but we hadn't really gone into detail. And I think it's fair to say, like, we've kind of moulded it a bit after that. It's not been everybody's favourite because, of course, there was the slightly farcical falling on the staff.
Yeah, whoops, I tripped.
Whoops, I tripped. Fell on a staff. I'm not a god anymore. I'm dead. See you later. So I think we kind of, not retconned it, but we've kind of moved it in a different direction.
Yeah, it's less, oops, I slipped, and now, oh no, I was stabbed.
We've got, it's very much that Julius Caesar momentous moment, A2 Brute, and all that lot. We've gone into a bit more detail in lore stories and recently in Fate of the Gods and other things. But Mod Nancy, who wrote that actually, by the way, has done motion capture for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So the Hobbit trilogy. Yeah, there we go, you know. We've moved on from the death of Zaros, but I think it's fair to say that Zaros is playing a big part in our storyline.
Yeah.
Kind of central, but also not present. I think that's always been his MO. You know, this idea of being a puppet master, Machiavellian behind the scenes.
His strings are everywhere. He's pulling everything going, yes. It's not me at all.
Because that wasn't always there. And that's what I really like about Zaros. Because we kind of were trying to determine what Zaros was like, what he represented. And the idea of being almost representing fate. Like, he would let mortality go about their business, but whenever they needed checks or balances, he would be the one that did them, just to make sure that there was this kind of status quo, that everybody was happy. He would be doing these things. And that's really kind of, it sounds like utopian, but also really insidious, and people fall on different sides of that. Where do you guys sit?
Well, I think it's less about him wanting to make sure that everyone is happy and make sure that everyone is functioning efficiently is how I would say it. It's not my idea of utopia, but my idea of utopia has me in command anyway, so it's debatable whether my
with a bag of souls.
Well, exactly. But I think it's interesting to see how some players relate to Zaros, because there are a lot of very kind of almost fundamentalist Zaros supporters. I've seen a couple of forum threads recently in the lore forums where there have been players who've been literally sticking their fingers in their ears and saying, no, you can't tell me anything bad about Zaros, which is fascinating.
Yeah. Because of course that's the front he wants to...
Well, exactly, yeah. He wants you to think like that.
But we don't know much about what's behind that front, or if it is a front. And I think that's what you really enjoyed doing in Fate of the Gods, Mod Roly.
Messing with people?
Toying. Personal Zaros.
Yeah, they've just been like one of the very first things he says is, I can't lie to you. I love what that's done to the community. Sorry, community.
I mean, is it true? Can he?
Well, I'm not going to answer that, obviously. I mean, I said back then it was open to interpretation. My own personal interpretation is that he doesn't lie, but he doesn't always tell the truth, or it is like a half-truth.
Right, okay.
Or so lies of omission, things like that.
That's what you need to know.
And that's the manipulation. But I mean, that's not a factual thing. That's not, necessarily canon.
And of course, as we've seen with, like gods like Saradomin, we've tried to tell stories from different perspectives. It's kind of fluctuated the player opinion of them based on the stories we've told. It might be we're just waiting for the kind of the bad Zaros story.
Breaking Zaros? Oh no, we've done that already, haven't we?
Well, Within the Light went into some of that, didn't it?
We covered it briefly. I mean, it's worth pointing out that the Within the Light information is from Seren's point of view.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we want to make it clear is that while Seren's still kind of, she loves her brother, but she doesn't trust him in the slightest, and she doesn't think that anyone else should trust him.
So weirdly, they haven't been exposed to each other much. I mean, a Zarosian could say, well, the first thousands of years of their life they spent together, but really they haven't interacted much since. Zaros has learned a lot. There are viewpoints on that.
Yeah, but you still have grudges and things that can last throughout the ages.
And when history tells a tale, you have to look at the stories of Centist and things, which leads to a point of, there's the Julius Caesar references in the betrayal. There's also a kind of Roman references in his kind of legatus and the ranks that he has within, and what Centistan is described as is kind of Roman, and he brought a lot of culture in. So there's obvious kind of counterpoints there. I think you and Mod Jack have worked on that a fair bit. You're looking with confusion at me. It's certainly a lot of Mod Jack in there.
Yeah, I mean, Jack has developed a lot of the Zarosian Empire.
Yeah.
Like the history of it and its makeup.
And also got a lot of Infernus, Zaros' kind of connections to the demon world.
Yeah, the Latin origin of the language was inherited from the realms.
Yeah, we had a lot of crossover on that. That's when he was working on the Mazrat Memories and then spinning off into ridiculousness like Lornab.
Yes.
And I went the more...
I still let him do that. It's my own fault.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it ended up in a good place.
Yeah.
I think we got a lot out of
I love it when Team Lornab won the Dimension of Disaster competition.
It's just a contrast, though. I mean, it's like when I wrote about Lornab, it's all serious and it tells something about Zaros, like how he's quite potentially cruel in some ways.
Sure. You could look at all these Roman influences and see them as derivative, but I think that like what has happened with the Egyptian references in Desert, you can buck that and tell, so people expect certain things, but the Icthrarin and Amaskut and all of these kind of different directions is really quite interesting. We could do the same with the Roman Empire.
Yeah, it helps to cover kind of the base, because everyone has a basic idea of what these things mean. So it means you don't have to go into like ridiculous detail to explain everything. Yeah. It's familiar enough that you can get the idea behind it, but then it means you can focus more on the influences that make it different, the special stories, the actual relationship between the characters and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things people might not know is that obviously before we had narrative designers and things like that, it was very much Paul who was driving the game. Yeah. And actually, when he was writing all of the God letters, he planned the story, he had actually only intended that Zaros would be the one to return. He hadn't necessarily imagined the return of Guthix like that. I mean, we've talked about it since, and he loves the direction we're going in. Not to say that we're kind of, going against his plans or anything like this, but he'd actually only intended Zaros to come back, and he had written down some things for what Zaros would be. But that's quite interesting, because of course the storyline of RuneScape is based so much on people's affiliation to gods and their love of gods. So it would have been, I would have been really kind of curious to know what the direction would have been if only Zaros came back. Maybe a new Centistan Empire or something along those lines. I mean, what could you imagine of that?
Or would he have learned from his previous empire building and go in a different direction?
Yeah, because we obviously brought him back in a kind of, he's changed the way he's working based on that betrayal. He was too at the forefront. And now he's trying to keep more of that empty throne mentality of not being there.
But the having the rest of the gods back, he doesn't really interact with them now that he is back. So I think he'd still be doing what he's doing now.
Yeah.
I think more we're going to see what that means when they actually interact, when you actually see Zaros and Zamorak together. And
there's an argument that the gods don't even know that Zaros is back. I mean, it's...
Well, no, because we didn't put any dialogue options in for you to tell them.
It's Focus Quest on Azanadra. There it is again. Yeah. So I'd like to quickly go into Fate of the Gods. This is very much you, Mod Rayleigh, because there are a few things in there. There's I think maybe people don't know that there was a deleted scene, Fate of the Gods. So we won't go into too much detail because it could rise up again. It's actually almost completed.
Almost completed. We need to teach you the difference between prototyping and completed content.
It was white boxed in the first stages of development.
Yeah. It was kind of like a redux of the opening area with the environmental obstacles, as it were, the lava spouts and the bombs of ash and things like this.
Yeah.
But it was me being a bit pretentious again, as I tend to, with a kind of figurative and literal climb up the mountain.
Yeah.
So it was the cutaway after you defeated the Nihil, and the player says something like, "Oh, this is going to be a long climb," and then it's like,
and then he appears
cut to
at the top of
the mountain. Yeah, it's like we were going to actually have that, and we'd modelled an environment that was actually felt like a mountain. You were going up this face of the mountain. Yeah, and we'd...
It was almost that vertical climb feel, wasn't it? It reminded me of... I had a board game called Kong that was a magnetic thing, and you'd make a ball bearing go up the top of it. winding up, and it reminded me of that. It was very cool. Yeah. Or Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, yeah.
Donkey Kong, yeah. I think there's a better reference.
Yeah. There were. I mean, it wasn't like I was chucking barrels down or anything, but I think I'd have done that in my tap time if we'd have had this environment. But we might use it in future.
Yeah. And a quick talk about before we end. A quick talk on the look of Zaros, because obviously that went through a few iterations. But I think we rested on the idea of a talking mask, which didn't quite filter into the end product actually. So he's got that mask.
It did.
Yeah.
It's animated. He talks.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to go back and play. It gives me another excuse to play Fate of the Gods again. But the animated mask, which is really that kind of, it gets across what Zaros is about.
I found it an interesting contrast that in the updated Siren, she has that bandana that covers her mouth. And while on Zaros, he has not actually his physical mouth, but one that's clearly presented and artificial.
That was kind of deliberate. When we were going through the original designs, we wanted to have that kind of crossover of something like the mask.
Yeah.
But with it turned into a veil with this, and we decided to make it so that it kind of obscured her features. So with Zaros, the mask is showing what he's saying. It's showing the expressions he could have. Whereas with Seren, it's hiding them.
Yeah. So who knows? She might have a tiny mask under there.
She might well have a tiny mask under her mask.
Brilliant. And there's the cutscene as well, which we spent a lot of time storyboarding, possibly more so than any other cutscene.
But it was an important one to get right.
It was, because this is the reveal, basically, of Zaros' look. You saw a few bits beforehand. We kind of tried to keep it not mentioned at RuneFest as well. Not shown at RuneFest, the image of Zaros. But there was definite Iron Man references. We kept talking about Iron Man. You can admit it.
We were using it as a kind of a shorthand. It was never, hey, let's mimic a scene from Iron Man. It was just... We wanted some mystical thing. We wanted to put the armor on. The important thing was to show him in his normal form, his base form, which is the crystalline.
It's fragile form, and
the armor is part of that hiding away behind the shadows.
We wanted to give a sense of empowerment. This was somebody powerful, and that was a good way of getting across. So we could be reductive and say it was Iron Man, but really it kind of gets across his character.
Yeah, I think the original storyboard for that was like over 3 minutes, which is obviously far, far too long to do a cutscene, and we managed to trim it down to about 30 seconds, I think, in the end, which was crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well worth it.
But still very memorable. There we have it. So we've gone in depth into Zaros. And next time, we're going to try to go in depth on Saradomin. So please tune in. Goodbye.
And now to our favourite music. With me today, I have Mod Shauny, who's going to tell us about his favourite music track in RuneScape.
My most favourite RuneScape music track I like to listen to is one called Arise Legend. It's something that's actually published on the RuneScape SoundCloud website. It's something that I use to kind of bring people into the start of my streams and kind of play it throughout the stream as well here and there. It's because it's very... To me, it's kind of motivational. It's like the story of you coming through, and as the music's picking up, you're like picking yourself up as a character and kind of making your way through the world of Gielinor. And to me, it kind of stands out because you're just going through and like killing everything, leveling up and trying to get to the end goal of an achievement.
That's great, Mod Shauny. Now we'll get to listen to it. And now over to Mod Infinity and the player support team.
Hello and welcome to the customer support segment of the podcast. I'm Mod Infinity. I'm joined here by Mod Kelvin, Mod Mix and Mod Steve W. Do you want to introduce yourself, guys? Mod Steve?
Yeah, so Mod Steve W. I'm an operations manager in the customer support team. I've been with Jagex for about 9 years now.
Okay, cool. Part of the furniture. Mix?
Hey, I'm Mod Mix. I'm senior operations manager for customer support. Like Steve, I've been here for 9 years.
All right, and Kelvin?
I'm head of customer support. I've been at Jagex for over 11 years now. Done various roles in customer support and community management and genuinely love it.
Okay, cool. I've been here for 2 years and like Steve, working in customer support as an operations manager. So today we want to talk about something which is on everyone's mind. Is our new support centre we've been talking about on the forums and on social media. So I want to kind of just introduce what it's all about and why we've got a new support centre on the way. So Mod Mix, maybe you can kind of answer that one for us. So why have we got this new support centre coming? Why are we working on it?
Yeah, sure. So currently, as most of you might know, we use the wiki for all of our support needs. The wiki, for those who don't know, it kind of mixes the support-centric articles, but also kind of game guides that is created by users. So at the moment, there's roughly about 20,000 different articles on the wiki, of which only about 50 or 60 are actually customer support related. So kind of one of the big issues a lot of people have, and ourselves included in that, is actually searching these content to find the relevant articles. So kind of as part of the year-long project last year, we've looked into different alternative solutions and we've come up with a new knowledge base. So there's this new version which we've released just now that's gone live.
Okay. Awesome. And in terms of the wiki and the support centre, what are the key differences? What's changing? What makes it easier for customers to use?
So a huge thing is the search functionality. So like I said before, having to search through 20,000 articles was near impossible. Mm-hmm. So now we've kind of got our own dedicated space. We can actually use a much improved search function. So this is kind of very similar to kind of Google, where it kind of auto-complete your search results.
Oh, cool.
You can also tag up articles. So even if that word doesn't appear in the article, if we think it's relevant, that'll get promoted to the user. If there's a new topic, we can promote that and have that flagged as something relevant to your search. Mm-hmm. And just the ease of use. So, you had to know a fair bit of wiki code to be able to edit the old one. The new one's a lot easier. So we should hopefully get a lot more frequent updates than we have before in the past.
Okay, sounds awesome. So kind of mentioning it on our social media, on the forums quite a bit, and quite a lot of customers currently find that it was difficult to find the right article to get help and contact Jagex. Will the new support centre, is it designed to make content easier, or will it help players find the right page they're looking for in an easier way? I know the search will help in that respect. Are they just restricted to search, or can they go through a drop-down section? How would that work?
So we're looking at a number of different avenues and ways to do it. So with the wiki, it was very much like leading a horse to water, in that we had to kind of second guess almost what you wanted and what you want to find, and lead you down the garden path to find it. With the new system, because the search is a lot better, you can just kind of come in, search for your issue, and hopefully find the right article. However, if you want to kind of do a more in-depth look and kind of search for various topics and related issues, then that option's available to you. Further down the stream, we'll be looking at kind of putting in some kind of decision tree. So, you'd be able to kind of come in with an original question, and then through a sequence of drop-downs or kind of logic, kind of be led to the right article.
I mean, that sounds really fantastic. I think some players might just say, why not have an email? They can just send you an email with a question. Instead of having to go through this new support centre, why can't they just send us an email?
That's a really good question. One I've toyed with for ages. One of the big things is that we tried having an open email address, and unfortunately, the bulk of emails were requests that could be solved by the user themselves without needing to get in touch with us. Mm-hmm. And a big part of the process in customer support for me is making the user experience as seamless as possible. And in an ideal world, you shouldn't have to contact us if you've got an issue. Yeah. That's why last year we spent a lot of time with initiatives to try and help self-help. So for example, the new secured appeal process, the ability to see your own email in your account settings. Mm-hmm. These are all kind of common issues that we get loads of replies of every week. And now hopefully the majority of those can be solved without actually needing to contact player support.
Yeah. Okay, great. So by the sound of it, it seems like the majority of people will be able to get their answer quickly, often within minutes, by getting the self-help on the wiki. Mm-hmm. But if they desperately need to get in touch with us, then there'll be an option to do that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think what's important to kind of cover is that as a department, we pride ourselves on quite a lot of things, but most importantly, response times, right? And getting a response back to customers within 48 hours, but often a lot quicker than that. Will this new support centre impact on our response time? Should customers expect to wait longer? Or will it kind of be the same?
So in an ideal world, right, you wouldn't have to wait as a customer because you get your help right there and then.
Yeah.
Whereas before you wouldn't be able to see it on the wiki. But ultimately nothing will be changing in terms of response times. We'll still be aiming to respond within 48 hours.
Awesome. And so in terms of the support centre as a whole, off the top of your head, can you think of, or maybe Steve and Kelvin can contribute this, the top improvement you think, or top 3 improvements you feel the support centre will bring over the wiki?
So for me personally, it's the search functionality by far.
Okay, cool. Kelvin, do you have a top improvement?
I suppose one of the things that you won't necessarily be visible to players is kind of under the hood, there's a lot of kind of analytics. So there's a lot of data that we'll get to see which are the most popular articles, which ones are being rated as positive or negative by the people that are using them. And then we're going to have a team of editors who will periodically go through that stuff, refresh all the content and keep it up to date and make sure it's working for customers. So that's something that we definitely really wanted on the old Support Centre wiki, but we never had. So it was quite hard for us to really identify and pinpoint where the worst areas were. So we kind of just had to kind of guess and work through it. So it's kind of trial and error. Whereas with this, we'll have good hard data to kind of base decisions on, which is a good thing.
Okay, brilliant. Sounds good. And Steve, do you have one?
I think I'd say it's from the staff side, from the JMods here, they're actually helping customers. It's a much better system on this side. So just very simple things like being able to deal with things in the right order and being able to prioritise things, but it enables us to sort of join different messages together, use a lot of advanced sort of functionality, and it enables guys to be able to spot sort of trends and, if issues keep coming up that they can we can highlight that. It's much easier to spot and see those things in this new system, whereas the previous system was very kind of email based, and this is actually a customer support system. It's designed, for this purpose.
Yeah, just picking up on that. So what we've kind of got here, it's not just a knowledge base, it's a whole ticketing system and knowledge base, and as Steve said, a kind of support system infrastructure. So we've now transferred over some of our tickets into the new system that we have. We've got the new knowledge base, and then when people kind of log in and send us a ticket, that's the next stage of this, and we're working on that throughout the year on an ongoing basis. So there'll be a whole lot of kind of gains that we're going to have kind of staff side, and things like the web form will change over time and all the rest of it, and kind of how players submit the information, and hopefully again that should be done in a much more kind of user friendly way. So it's quite a big project for us, and it's something that we've wanted for a great many years. So it really is going to kind of revolutionise how we approach our work in support, and players should see the benefit from that.
It all sounds fantastic. So ModMix, just remind us again, when is this due to be launched?
So we've actually launched it in its beta phase. So support.runescape.com. So we don't want to kind of hold it back until it was pitch perfect and everything else. We wanted to get the best out of it. So we've launched it already. We'll be leaving a forum post on the forums for players to leave feedback and let us know how it goes. And we'll be continuously looking at to kind of improve on the feedback and the overall design. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for taking the questions. I think it's been a really insightful podcast. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. And we'll see you all on the next podcast. Bye. See ya. So thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We welcome all your feedback on the forums, on Reddit, on Twitter. Please let us know what you think of the new format, and we'll look forward to producing more great podcasts in the future. Bye.